many of you have taken care of a child, you've wanted to give the child medication, but had no clue how much to give them? You looked on the back of the bottle, you saw that it had an adult dose, but you had no way of estimating how much should be given to a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 2-year-old. Well, in this particular lecture, we're going to learn a couple of equations that help you to estimate what a child's dose should be whenever taken into account the adult dose. Now let's keep in mind it's merely an estimate. It's not to be a concrete fact, and you should always seek the advice of a pediatrician before giving something to your own child. This will give you a decent estimate, though, on what a child should be given whenever an adult dose is taken into consideration. Let's look at a couple of different examples first. Then we'll also look at a more exact method that hospitals may use, or just your family pediatrician may use, and that will be milligrams per kilogram, a little more exact. So let's start by looking at these two equations. One's called Young's rule, the other's called Clark's rule. Now Young's rule is real easy to remember what it's for because I think young child, youngin', so easy to remember. Clark, it's just another one. I don't have a real good way of memorizing that. Think of a young boy named Clark, I suppose. But I have two of them, Young and Clark's rule. The Young's rule is fairly easy. It's the adult dose multiplied times the age divided by the age plus 12. That is Young's rule. Adult dose times age divided by age plus 12. Clark's rule is a little bit different. It is the adult dose multiplied times the weight divided by 150. Divided by 150. So when in exam, you may be asked the question, determine the child's dose of the following medication using Young's rule or using Clark's rule. Either way, I want you to be able to use one of these two rules and be able to give me the exact amount that you come up with this equation. Most pediatric dosages are based on weight. That makes sense because every 6-year-old isn't the same size. Every 2-year-old isn't the same size. And as we get on into adulthood and through adolescence, we certainly aren't the same size. Once you get into an adult, however, usually we can kind of make a pretty good just adult dosage and it will cover most age groups. Whenever a person is young, though, they're so sensitive that we have to dose it based on weight instead of age. You'll usually see it with milligrams per kilogram. So milligrams per kilogram. Most of us don't deal with kilograms very often. Because of that, we are going to have to convert. You may know or not know this, but it's time you do if you don't. And that is 2.2 pounds equals 1 kilogram. The way I remember that is most people would want to be known as their weight in kilograms. Why? Because it's lower. Everybody wants to lose a few pounds. Figure out your own weight. Get your own weight in pounds and divide that by 2.2. And then you'll know your weight in kilograms. Maybe that'll be helpful someday as you travel abroad to know your weight in kilograms. But be able to do that, do your sisters, your brothers, your mothers, your dad's weight. Find out how much they weigh in kilograms. Even more importantly, find out how much a child weighs in kilograms. However many milligrams we say per kilogram, if it's 2 milligrams per kilogram, it'll be your weight in kilograms times 2. If it's 3 milligrams per kilogram, it'll be your weight in kilograms times 3. So this is the method you need to be most familiar with because you're going to see it fairly often. So here comes an example. I have a 53-pound child goes to the hospital with a sore throat. Really common issue. The doctor is going to order 15 milligrams per kilogram per day of ciprofloxacin. Sometimes you'll hear milligrams per kilogram called mgs per kg. That's just nice little short verbiage that doctors or nurses or even pharmacists may use to just a little easier to say than milligrams per kilogram. So the question on this particular question is how many milligrams will the child be receiving per day? Well, first of all, we need to convert that pounds. Anytime you see pounds on the technician exam, almost certainly you're going to need to be converting it to kilograms. So when you see pounds, when you see LBS, divide by 2.2 and at least know what the pounds is converted to kilograms. So 53 pounds divided by 2.2, that is 24 kilograms. So now if it's 15 milligrams per kilogram per day, and I know the kilograms, I'm going to get the 24 kilograms that I already have calculated, multiply that times 15, and I'm going to get 360 milligrams. That is how much the child will be getting each day. We could find out how much that is per dose if we knew the directions. If it was twice a day, I'd divide 360 by 2. If it was 3 times a day, I'd divide 360 by 3. Let's look at an additional example of this on the blackboard, because I do think seeing me work it out just with my hands can help you to do it. Work on these problems on your own with your own pen and paper as well. Let's imagine for this blackboard problem that a physician order reads cefuroxime, that's the generic for Ceftin, 15 milligrams per kilogram intravenously, Q4 hours. The question reads, how many milligrams per day will the child receive? The child weighs 60 pounds. Now earlier I'd said if you see something written in pounds, you immediately just want to convert it to kilograms. Almost all problems, almost all equations you deal with will deal with the child's weight in kilograms. So whenever I see pounds, and in this case it's 60 pounds, I'm going to convert it to kilograms. So I'll just use my calculator here, which you will have on the test as well, and you're going to change it 60 pounds divided by 2.2. Always 2.2, and that'll get us 27.27 kilograms. I'm going to round this to the first significant digit, which is the tenths place, so it'll be 27.3. 27.3. So I'll put here 27.3 kilograms. Now the question now reads that we have cefuroxime, and it was 15 milligrams per kilogram, or 15 mgs per kg, and it's going to be Q4 hours. So what I need to do here is I'm going to multiply 15 times 27.3. So I have 15 milligrams per kilogram, and I'm going to multiply that times the weight, which is 27.3. Now why am I wanting to do that? Because basically in the end I want to make sure I just have milligrams. The question in the end was how many milligrams per day was the child received. So by the end I only want to have kilograms. So I can cancel these out, and then all we'll have to do is 15 times 27.3. Again, I'll do that on my calculator. 15 times 27.3, and the answer I'll get is 409.5. So that is how much the child will get per dose. It was cefuroxime 15 milligrams per kilogram, but they want to get this much every 4 hours. So the original question asked, how many milligrams per day will they receive? Well, you have to ask yourself, if they're getting it every 4 hours, how many times a day will they get it? Well, there's 24 hours in a day, so every 4 hours will be 6 times a day. Okay? You'll want to know that for a lot of day supply issues and things like that. But every 4 hours is 6 times a day. So I will just have to get 409.5, multiply that times 6. Again, I could do long multiplication, but why not just use a calculator? 409.5, and we're going to multiply that times 6, and I will get 2457 milligrams. So it's 2457 milligrams per day. I'll just write right there, per day. And that's your answer to that one. Now remember, they're only going to be getting 409 per dose, but this dose is going to happen 6 times a day because they're getting it every 4 hours. Let's take another look at another one where we're going to use the equations that we learned in the first part of the lecture. And that is it, pediatric dosages. It's very quick. I've said it one time, I've said it 1,000 times. That is, just know this one little bit, and that's one more exam question you can get right on your test. know Clark's rule, know Young's rule, and be able to calculate milligrams per kilogram per dose and milligrams per kilogram per day. Watch this over and over again until you get it.